It was a Black Sparrow. And then in the midst of sending off these records, I converted over to the Pure 2 by Antelope Audio. And so Brandon got the one that had the Black Lion converter on it, and Chris Athens ended up getting the one with the Pure 2 on it. So the records that everyone is hearing are actually two different style and type records when it comes to the sonics.
That's crazy. That's so crazy.
It is, but it worked out. Like it was so weird because the Black Lion has such a rounded, deep low end, but the Pure 2 has such depth when it from the mid range and up. And when you if with that knowledge, if you go listen to it on YouTube, which is what Brandon's version is, versus like on Tidal or Spotify, you'll hear that. And I was like,
oh, I'm interested to hear that now.
Yeah, look, which is cool. It was just one of those things. It happened that way just because of what was going on at the time. But it was definitely awesome.
I'll link to both of those. I'll link to both references in the show notes so people can have a listen to the differences.
Oh, and that's
really
gonna
cool.
And that's gonna be the cool thing because someone's gonna be like, they went on Tidal and heard, and they're gonna be like, "Holy crap!" Because I think the mastered version is on Tidal.
Yeah. So
I was like, "Oh yeah, this is so dope." I remember laughing with Chris Athens about it because it was just one of those things. I'm just like, this is this version, and he's like, I've never had that happen before, and I was like.
Apparently it's a thing. I don't know. That's what Brandon said.
It is, and it was the first time I've ever had something like that when it comes to mastering engineers happen. But hey, the label was out here like, let's get it, and I was like, okay.
Right. If you got a label telling you what to do, you do it.
Well, see, that's the thing, and I was able to get the guys that I've been coming up and working with for the last couple of years now. I was able to help get some of them their first major label credits. And that was a really big thing, being able to be like, hey, you did this record. Hey, here you go. You helped on this record. Hey, you had a hand in this record. And like right now,
nice. The
record has millions of plays on all these different platforms. Like the other day, I just found out that the record has, 4.57 million plays on SoundCloud.
Whoa.
Exactly.
Wild.
Exactly.
That's a ton of plays.
Yeah. I'm like, oh wow, this record actually did really, really good. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. I was really taken aback. It was just a great moment,
Nice. So, any secret sauce in the actual mixing process, like that you want to share with the audience?
I am a very, very big proponent on Jason Joshua's mix bus setup. So it was hard to track all these down, but I got lucky again and did it. So I found a copy of Ozone 5. His mix bus setup is Ozone 5 using the exciter in dual triode mode. I think it's a boost of 4.4, and the mix is this is on the very last band. It's a mix of 4.4, and the mix knob is at 50%. And then after that is Ozone 4, which I know some people are gonna be like, "What? Why aren't you using the new Ozone?" So doing the research of it, all of them sound different. From Ozone 4...
Yeah, all the Ozones do sound different.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from Ozone 4 up until 9 right now, all of them sound completely different. And they all got progressively cleaner. But back in the day, Ozone was definitely a definite harmonic distortion kind of plugin. Like, it definitely had a vibe and a feeling to it.
Yeah, it's gritty.
Yep. And so Ozone 4, all these different settings and presets, which you can learn and see all these if you go get his video from Mix with the Masters. 100%. It's the one with Rosalina. So I got that, and then I used the Pro L2 at the very end of that. Now, for me, after I mix into that setup every single record all the time, and
wow,
that's because besides that, I have a hardware setup. So I'm using this great SSL 4K summing box creation from the people at Cayenne, who is literally a nice little company in Spain, and they only make this is what they make, right? They make these beautiful SSL recreations for the summing portion of the SSL 4000. So I have a 14 channel SSL summing box going into my SSL bus compressor from Audioscape. With that, it's just doing like 2 dB to 4 dB of compression. And then out of that, it's going into my Clairphonic with all the knobs at 12 o'clock and all the switches going to the left-hand side or down. From there, I just picked this up, but at the time I had the Clark Technic EQP1As on my mix bus at the time, using the Chris Lord-Alge settings on those. So it's basically a boosted 5 at 60. Chris has the i3S Pultex, so his is a boost of 5 at 70, but 60 is the closest we can get. So I got that. I got those. You know, I had them. I just replaced them with
those are like kick drum settings. You know, those are like really like get the kicks out, right?
But that's the thing. So mixing into that. See that, and this is where people get it messed up. If you just start turning all these settings after your mix, it's going to ruin the mix.
Right.
Mixing into it, I get the best. I now don't have to boost the kick too hard because the boost is already there.
Right.
I don't have to boost the bass so hard because the boost for the bass is already there. What is it? And then you boost at 3K, 2 dB at 3K, right? And even though most people are like 3K, that's crazy, but 3K sounds really good. And again, anything you're going to compensate for is just because you're mixing into it. So it's just part of the setup.
Right.
And then from there so into the pure.
Kind of like starting off with your like little, like the timbre, whatever you want to call it, of like of those records is like what you're already mixing into. So you just like you said, you're doing less.
Yeah, because I having the tone of my record right now is the best thing in the world. And that's what it took me all these years to learn about getting into hardware. Like when you're coming up, you're like, yeah. And then as you grow up as a young engineer, you start to realize, I can do all this in the box. And then again, without the formal training or having someone over your shoulder saying yes or no, you realize that mixing in the box isn't that easy. You're really trying to grab a tone and a sound that exists out here, and you're just trying your best to get it. Now, for me now that I'm older, I'm like, I get these pieces that, again, the people that I look up to, there's core pieces that just sound really good all the time. Like, there's a sound from the SSL bus compressor hardware that just sounds really good, from the Clairphonic hardware. And I have the software, but the hardware, there's something about that inherent space, that air and, tubes and just hardware hit that just sound different here in the real world. And again, for me, I'm lucky enough to have it, so I use it to its full advantage every record. And I never change my settings either, so I just mix into the same settings all the time for every genre because it just gives me a tone that makes my records sound more realistic. Yeah. And that's what I've learned is I count on my hardware to help with the realism of my records, not just to improve the sonic quality of my records, So it helps with my depth and that front to back and the punch that you hear and the clarity of the vocals, that top end, sometimes that sheen that you're like, man, this sounds real pretty. Things like that,
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us people that are still working in the box we're just trying to make our stereo bus have something on it that gives it a little extra vibe and juice, whether it's like the tape machines or the virtual consoles.
That's another thing. So I have a Zulu. That thing is awesome. Oh my God. If I could recommend one piece of hardware that'll probably change your mixing life, get a Zulu.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I'm going to go on Google right now.
Look, turn the enhanced knobs to like 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock. I promise you, the way you hear your mixes after that will change your life. It will 100% change your life. Not even a question about it. You're going to literally get it, use it, and everybody, put it this way, everyone that I've told to go get one and then they got one, I get a phone call right after it happened, after they get one. And they're like, I started messing with it, and then I turned these knobs, and I'm just like, holy crap.
Oh my gosh. Okay, guys, the secret sauce is out. That's it. We can close this segment forever. We just get Zulus and we're done.
Well, I'll say this, and I know Langston, the guy that created the Zulu, I know he's going to get on me for this, and he's been getting on me for this, but I told him I don't care, and this is what helps him. This is what helps me sell the Zulu to more people. The Zulu is one of the few analog devices at its price range that have a built-in limiter. So,
whoa,
for like $650 plus tax or shipping or whatever, you can not only have a hardware tape emulation box that emulates like 3-4 different tape types in boxes, but again, if it's like the last thing on your chain before going back in, it has a built-in limiter, which means, and if anyone understands this about hardware, you know that this now gives you the room to push in to a record and basically do whatever you want. So you gain RMS without losing dynamics.
Sick.
Dude, look, man, I'm telling you.
Okay, guys, the secret's out.
Look, and,
so
you heard that Xanman record.
Giving your records. You're giving your records really hot to the mastering engineers, I'm guessing. So
I picked something up from and I picked this up from actually talking to Jason on Instagram. So I've had message conversations because I'm a talkative person and people like me. So
hey man, you're super likable.
Yeah,
sorry about that yawn.
No, I'm good. I tried.
It's getting late here.
Look, I understand. I understand, man. So I went and I hit him up and I was like, like how loud are your records? What's your one piece of gear that you really do love? Because I saw that Pensado's Place episode and he was like, I'll grab my 10M if the studio was on fire, and he changed it over to his monitor speakers. And then after that, I was like, well, how loud are your records? Like, how do you deliver your records to mastering? And he was like, well, I'll give the mastering engineer two things. I'm giving them what I give the client, which is like a pseudo master, and then I'll give them the mix without the limiters on it. So I took that to heart. I'm a very big proponent of Ozone 9. So again, because I have the gear and I'm pretty good with the mastering, with the mixing, I'll use Ozone 9's master assistant and give them like a little pseudo master. And that's what I send to the clients. So they get their mix back nice and loud and punchy and like it's a pseudo master. It's not quite as big as a master. It's like the bigness you get from sending it off to someone professional that knows what they're doing. But it's close. And then approvals, revisions, and all that fun stuff later on, when they're like, go ahead and send it out, literally I'm sending the mastering engineer 2 records. So this is what I sent the client, and I'm taking the limiters off. So
you basically just disable Ozone 9, basically.
Yeah, well, I'm going to disable Ozone 9, and I'm going to take off my Pro L2.
Pro L2.
Yep, because Pro L2, the cool thing with Pro L2 is it's also pushing back. You know what I mean? It's pushing back on the record. So as I mix into it, I'm getting what's going to happen to my record, to the kick, to the bass, when that mastering limiter is starting to push back, what I'm saying, X amount of dB.
Yeah.
So for me, that's great because now that I've taken Pro L2 off and I've just let the dynamics fly, the mastering engineer has, this is what I sent the client. Which means that this is what you're up against. So here you go. I've taken the chain off.
You give them the rough master.
You know what I mean? Like they're like, okay, no, they get both. So yeah, they get the rough master and the mix, and they go, okay, cool, and they can decide, hey, maybe this is dope and I can use this, or hey, let's go ahead. He gave this to me unchained. This is all I needed. It's really that simple. Like I'm trying to help and be a team player as much as I possibly can. Because the goal is to win a ring. You're also
handing off your creative baby, right? So you can
it makes me feel good. This is
as much information as I can give, as I can give to just ensure it's going to come out as amazing as possible.
Exactly. That's literally the goal. I'm like, hey, look, this is it. Here you go. Everybody approved it. Everybody loves it. Take it home.
Yeah, love it. Dude, this is amazing. So, we've spoken about so many things, and this has really been an amazing conversation. So, and I asked this question to everybody. So, a lot of people listening to the show are at the beginning of their journeys. Maybe they don't have as much experience as you do. What's something that you would share with your younger self that you know now that you didn't know then, that you would do differently, or that somehow you did right, but you didn't even know you were doing it right? Like, what would be that piece of advice?
Well, getting into time travel. Let's see.
Do that.
I know, right? Let's see. I would say I'm a science geek too. I love stuff like this. No, but if I could go back in time, my number one thing that I would tell myself, and it's only because I know myself, I'm very big on networking. I would have told myself to go to school. I would have told myself to